Yes, sir. Yes, we can start now.
Okay, right. So unfortunately, yesterday the class was interrupted. So anyway, we have started. I think we have started to discuss about this partitioning and all, right? This management, you see.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Our hard disk
right. Let's start.
drop होने से.
Right. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Right. So this is where we stopped, right? So anyway, let's start from here. We have discussed about the file system. We uh, stopped in here. So like you told, I think there are multiple file system. So when it comes to the Linux world, we found ext4, ext3, FAT, and XFS. XFS is the latest file system in the Linux. So, and when it comes to the Windows world, we found NTFS. That's the most popular file system in Windows world, and the latest one is ResLine-FS, right? The major responsibility of the file system is manage your data on the hard disk, because the thing is hard disk is anyway, it's a hardware piece, right? So the first I would like to talk about the mechanical disk, how mechanical disk work. So there are two types of hard disk. We can categorize hard disk into mainly two types. One is mechanical drive and another one is SSD, right? You all with me, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, I think you may know how its works, but let me explain it little. So what happened is inside the hard disk. I think I have some. Can you see my screen, right? So this is the mechanical hard drive. This is inside the mechanical hard drive. So you can find the this round shape disk. We call it as a platters, right? The platter inside on the platter, right? You can find the tracks like this, right? You all can see my screen, right?
Yes, sir. We can see.
Right. So there's all the platter inside the platters, right? Platters divided. You can find the round circle areas, right? So that we call it as a tracks. The tracks divided into the any other small pieces we call as a sectors, right? The sector is the most smallest piece that where we can store the data, right? So these platters are plated on Fe2 plus. So the pattern of the Fe2 plus define the data which is inside, which is stored on the hard disk, right? That's how it's work. So the Fe2 plus pattern, once the needle read the sector, Fe2 plus pattern which is inside the sector and pass it to the file system. File system is the one who convert this pattern into the human readable format, right? So that's how it's work. So main functionality of the file system is to manage this data, right? So data inside the hard disk. So its main responsibility is converted human readable data into the human readable data into the pattern, Fe2 plus pattern, and Fe2 plus pattern, it converted into the human readable format. So that's how it's work, right? So like I explained, I think you all have understand or some, is there any question? No? I hope you all know this, right? So that's what I don't want to explain much. So is there any issues, any questions up to now?
No, sir.
Okay, right, let's go ahead. So the file system is that. So a file, like I explained, the file system is the software piece which convert human readable data into the pattern, FP2 plus pattern, right? So we have a couple of multiple file systems. You could you may know, right? So NTFS, line FS, FAT, and other stuff as well. So why can FAT32 file system read the data which is written in NTFS, written by the NTFS?
Sorry, sir. Can you repeat it again?
Yeah, can FAT32 file can data which is written by the FAT32 read NTFS file system? Assume you formatted your hard disk into the FAT32, and I'm going to plug it into the operating system where he installed the NTFS. So can that particular operating system read this hard disk?
I think it's can't.
No, sir.
දැන් මොකද වෙන්නේ දැන් ෆැට් දැන් අපි ගත්තොත් අපි හිතමු අපි ඩිස්ක් එකක් ගන්නවා ඩිස්ක් එක FAT32 වලින් ෆෝමැට් කරලා තියෙනවා මේක අරගෙන ගිහිල්ලා ප්ලග් කරනවා NTFS වලින් NTFS ෆයිල් සිස්ටම් එකක තියෙන මැෂින් එක හරි දැන් එතකොට මේ මැෂින් එකේ මේ හાર્ඩ් ඩිස්ක් එක කියවන්න පුළුවන් වේද can read this machine to can this hard disk the data can retrieve or not?
NTFS file systems එකක් තියෙන එකකින් FAT32 පුළුවන් වෙයි sir. But අනිත් පැත්තට බොහෝම බැරි වෙයි.
No, it can't, right? So theoretically it can't, because the thing is like I explained, right? The file system is the one who create the pattern, right? And the file system can only identify the pattern that he creates, right? So he cannot understand the pattern someone's create, right? But my point, right? දැන් ඔයා ගිහලා Linux machine එකක තියෙන hard disk එක ගෙනල්ලා Windows machine එකකට ගියොත් ඒකේ පේනවද read කරන්න පුළුවන්? You cannot unless you install a particular file system on the Windows, right? So assume they are so think about the other way around, right? So you have a Windows formatted hard disk, so and you are going to plug it into the Linux system. Can read this hard disk through the Linux system? No, you can't. Why? Linux system can understand only the ext4 or ext3, right? So because Linux system doesn't come up with the other NTFS or any file system which is known in the Windows system, right? So what we have to do is we have to install the NTFS on Linux. Unless otherwise, you cannot read the this which is format on NTFS, right? Got my point, right? It's just like a alphabet, right? So assume can you read, if you don't know the Tamil, can you read the Tamil paper? You cannot, right? Because you cannot understand the pattern right? Sentence pattern and the you don't know about the alphabet and all the stuff you don't know, right? This is file system is kind of a language. Got my point?
Yes, sir. Yes.
හරි ඉතින් මේක language එකක් වගේ මේක දැන් එක language එකකින් දැන් ඔයා දන්න එක language එකක් නම් හරි ඔයාට කියවන්න අනිත් වෙන language එකකින් ලියපු එකක් ඔයාට කියවන්න බෑ වගේ තමයි මේ hard disk එක. හරි same thing, right? So keep it that in mind, right? You can so right here just allocation unit size. Allocation unit type you can select multiple, but you better to select it as a default, right? So volume label you can give any name, right? It is in order to identify easily, so you can give the name, right? So for this I will give file SRV, right? So I just click the quick format and press next. So it has been created file. So if you go to the this PC, so you could see newly created partition is appeared. So let's see how how we install a new hard disk and make it as a usable, right? So what we can do is for this. So I'm going to add some hard disk into here. It's simple, very simple. Go to the VM settings and I'm going to add some hard disk. Select hard disk. So virtual device type is iSCSI. So create new virtual disk. I'm giving 60 GB, that is fine. And store virtual as a single file, I'll select it. I have explained why we select this. I'm not going to select allocate all this space now because I don't want it, right? So if I select it, total 60 GB will be allocated from my hard disk, whether it's used or not, right? For this, I don't want to. I deselect it. So this is where it is created. I keep it as a default and finish and press OK, right? So once it's okay, I think it will automatically. All right. So you could see once you go to the disk management, you could see new hard disk. But what is the color code? Right, color code is black, and it says unknown 60 GB. It is on offline. The first thing you have to do is you have to make it online, right? Just right click on inside this and press online, make it online, right? So once you do the online, the tag has changed to not initialize, right? Now you have to initialize this. Once you click it, so it will ask MBR and GBD, right? What is this? Master boot record and global partition table. What is this? Do you know about the MBR or GBD? Do you guys know? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So do you know about MBR or GPT? So what is MBR and what is GPT?
MBR mean master boot record and GPT stand.
Yeah, that is stand for. I mean, what is the purpose and what is the purpose of using this?
MBR have, I think MBR can only make 4 primary partition, and
So why is that? Why 4 particles?
It physically create the partition.
No. Then why GPT?
partition table is MBR, no?
No, it's wrong.
It's work on BIOS, MBR work on BIOS, and but GPT work on UEFI, as I remember.
Not correct. But I asked you why MBR let you to create only 4 particles. So reason behind. Right, anyway, let's see. Right. Yeah, like so MBR on GPT is kind of a it's a kind of a map of the hard disk, right? So all the hard disk vendors, it's look like this, right? So first most 512 bits, right? First most 512 bits bit of the hard disk will allocate for the MBR, right? The operating system, when operating system read the hard disk, he has to read the MBR first, right? So MBR consists of 512 bits. So the first, I can't remember the exact line, but it's if it is a Linux system, I think I'll explain it. It is easy. This is bootloader, right? So bootloader information, right? So what is the bootloader of Linux?
Grub,
What is it?
Grand Unified Bootloader.
Yeah, grub is one, right? Grub. There are 2 stages in grub. So one is grub 1 and grub 2, right? I think you may know that. I am not going to discuss it here. Right, let me draw it, right? Like I explained, first most 512 bit will allocate for the MBR, right? First we will discuss about the MBR, right? MBR, like someone told, MBR come up with the old systems like BIOS, right? Right. So what MBR is, the layout of MBR is like this, right? The first most, it's assumed this is 0 bit and this is a 512 bit, right? Bit of the hard disk, right? It's just like a first sector of the hard disk, right? Likewise, right? The first thing it's allocate for the bootloader. Loader information, right? So what is the bootloader of Windows? Linux, you all know Linux bootloader is grub. Each and every operating system should have a bootloader or not?
Yes, sir, it should be.
Yeah, it should be, because this contain where the boot partition is, what is the boot partition is, and shit. right, where the this, right, sorry guys. So like you said, so each and every operating system in the world have a bootloader. So bootloader contain all the information which is related to the boot partition, where the boot partition is, where the what is the operating system installed, and where it is. So those map, it's just like a map, right? So the first most bit is allocated for that. So the other one is, so it's consist of can't remember the exact 464 bit for this information. I can't exact remember the size. So, but it is 464 something like, right? So the next thing is allocated for the partition table, right? The total size of the partition table out of this 512 partition table takes 64 bits, right? For the 64 bit, so to keep one part information of the one partition, right, it should require the 16 bit, right? The total size of the partition table would be 64 bit. To keep information of the single partition, it should allocate 16 bit out of this 64. Then how many primary partition that you can create? It is 4, right? You all with me?
Yes, sir. So we can't see your screen, sir.
Sorry. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, yes.
Right. Sorry. Right. So like I explained, the partition table consists of 64 bit out of the 512 bit of the MBR, right? So for the information of the single partition, we should allocate 16 bit out of this 64 bit. හරි දැන් මේක මොකද්ද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ මේ boot load එක තියෙනවා boot load එකේ information එක තියන්න මට මතක නැහැ හරියටම ගාන කීයද කියලා 600 464 boot load එක විදි දෙකකට එනවා Linux වල නම් grub stage 1 and grub stage 2 කියලා හරි Windows වල boot loader එක ඇවිල්ලා NTLRD හැබැයි දැන් අලුත් boot loader එක වෙන නමකින් එන්නේ මේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් partition table එක ඇවිල්ලා total 64 bit 64 මේ 64 bit වලින් 16 bit යන එක primary partition එක information තියාගන්න right so MBR is the map of this hard disk right keep it as it is right so 16 bit යනවා එතකොට අපිට හදන්න පුළුවන් the maximum partition would primary partition number of partition would be 4 right you all with me right
Yes, sir, yes.
Then but the thing is the practically this is not sufficient for us right then what we can do is we can convert one primary partition into the extended partition right we call it as a extended partition right on top of the extended partition you can create any number of logical partitions so but what is the limitation of the logical partition you can create then the practically you can create unlimited partition even though you use the MBR but what is the limitation the limitation is you can create only 4 primary partitions right then how we can create the unlimited partition that means we can convert one primary partition location into the extended partition and on top of the extended partition you can create the multiple logical partition but there is a limitation of the logical partition not like a primary partition what is the limitation of this logical partition when we think about the primary partition the limitation is you cannot install operating system on logical partition so that is the limitation right? Then what happens? So assume you have a 1 TB size of this, right? The first out of this 1 TB, MBR consists of only 512 bit. Are the 1 TB disk එකක් තියෙනවා මේ disk එකෙන් මේ චූටි 512 bits විතරයි මේ MBR එකට අරන් තියෙන්නේ. What happen if this 512 bit crash? What happen? What happen is operating, even though all other sectors are healthy, right? But operating system cannot access any data on the hard disk, even though the out of these 512 bit are healthy. Got my point?
Yes.
හරි මේ 512 bit එක crash වුණොත් හරි 41 TB disk එකේ තියෙන data වට access කරන්න බැරුව යනවා. හරි this is the other limitation of the MBR. The first limitation is you can create only the 4 primary partition. Other one is you can so the maximum size of one partition that can create on MBR is 2 TB, right? 2 TB or 4 TB, I can't remember the exact figure, so you can find it out, right? So that is there is a size limitation, right? You cannot create the partition above the 4 TB or 2 TB, right? There's a limitation. Those are the 3 limitations that if you use the MBR, you can face, right? So to mitigate these limitations with the new system like UEFI, come up with the UEFI, right? So what UEFI do is, right, it keeps automatical backup of the UEFI system, right? If the primary copy fails, it will automatically restore the backup copy and try to boot it, right? So that is the other thing is you can create unlimited primary partitions using practically unlimited primary partition if you use the UEFI with the GPT. And the next thing is you can create I cannot remember the exact size of the partition, maximum size of the partition, but practically it's kind of a 256 TB or something like that, but it's beyond the partition size which operating system supports, right? So I think the Windows 2019, as I remember, Windows 2019 support only 256 TB or maximum size of the partition would be 256, I guess, right? So you can find it out, right? So that's all, right? So if you are going to create the partition is more than 4 TB, right? So definitely you have to use the GPT instead of using MBR's partition table, right? So I think you all can understand, right? Right. So is there any questions right now? I think there is one question. So what is the difference in between logical and primary partition? I told you, right? So only difference is you cannot install operating system on it, right? All right, let's move forward. I select the GPT and press OK, right? Once I click OK, you could see this is online, right? But when you go to the file system, explore the file system, you cannot see the
Excuse me,
disk.
sir. We can your whiteboard, sir. We can see your whiteboard.
Okay. So okay.
Hari, sir.
Alright, now it's made it as online, right? This one is now is online. So now you can create the partition, or now only you can create the partition on this new disk that you have recently added, right? But unfortunately, if you browse the file system, but still you cannot see the partitions. Why? We haven't create the partition right? So what we can do is right click it and click. I'm going to create the new simple volume, right? So press next, and I'm going to create the 30 GB partition on the disk one, right? You can assign any drive letter, right? As well as if you don't want to define the drive letter, you can mount empty folder like what you have done is done with the Linux system, right? So in the Linux file system, you mount your new disk into the folder, right? There is no, you cannot give kind of a drive letter in the Linux. Matagal?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Harry, the same like Linux system, you can mount NTFS this, you can mount the disk into the folder, right? So, but so most of the time we use the drive letters, right? So you can create the partition without assigning the drive letter as well, right? So, but for this moment, so we can create the partition. You can select any drive letter as you wish. Right? So again, the process is same like earlier that we did, and we'll see. This is file service01. Let's say. Right, finish. So now partition has created. You can explore it. So you are here now. It is F drive, right? You can create new folders or any other stuff in here. You can copy your data as well. So I just create folder and just create Sanjay. Right, we'll see. Right, I'll give some letters. Right, assume I just want to expand this partition. Can you do it?
I think we can't, sir.
Let's see, right? So here there's an option called extend volume, right? This one I'm going to select the amount space in maximum available is 31 GB, right? So I just give the 31 GB for the here. Yeah, it has extended, right? Let's check whether my data is available or not. Yes, it is available, right? So you could see you cannot expand the disk. You can expand the disk without without uh, affecting your existing data. And also you can do it online, right? So can you shrink it? Yes, you can shrink it as well. So assume I just want to enter the amount of space to shrink. I just say 30K. Yeah, it's shrink from the 30 GB, almost 30 GB. Let's check whether data is available. Yes, data is available. Right. The sync also we can do it online, right, without down the server, right? Okay. So this is the basics, this operation that you can perform using the Windows this manager, right? There are a couple of lessons that you will learn in future. So about the advanced disk configuration and advanced disk operations, like RAID technology, and you may learn the RAID technology, why RAID is important, and what is the use case of RAID, and what are the RAID levels, and what are the difference in between RAID levels. Those things you can learn, right? So in future lessons, right? So I think you all can clear, right? So is there any questions up to now? Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, now you all have a proper understanding how to install the Windows operating system on physical or virtual machines, right? And now you know what are the things that you have to do after the installation, as well as now you know how to how to perform the basic configuration of the server, right? Through the server manager, right? So that is end of the first lesson, right? But we have remained the small lesson, but I want to give it as an assignment. This is going to be your first assignment, right? So what I just want, what you have to do is, right? So you have to install operating system uh, without GUI, right? And you have to install uh, VMware tools on the CLI mode, as well as you have to configure the IP address and the name of the your server, host name of your server, and you have to uh, shut down the firewall as well. Those configuration you have to perform. So basic configuration you have to perform, right? So what you have to do is you just do it in your laptop or desktop, and get all the snaps, right? And paste it into the Word file and send it to me, right? Upload it to your uh, Google Classroom, right? So got my point?
Yes. What is the deadline, sir?
Deadline would be before next Monday.
Okay,
Right.
sir.
So before next Monday, before our class, you have to submit, right?
Okay, sir. Good.
Okay, I think I'll repeat it, right? You just want to install the operating system without GUI, and install VMware tools on it, and perform the configuration, like configure the IP address, default gateway, and DNS network. You have to configure the network related settings, as well as you have to shut down the firewall, and you have to change the host name. So those are the three things you have to perform, right? So while you perform it, take the snaps, right, and paste it into your any Word document and send it to, right? In background, your desktop, it should show your student ID, right?
Sorry, sir. We didn't.
So your background, so your wallpaper, right? So you change it to, so the wallpaper of the host machine, right? You have to show your index number. හරි wallpaper එකේ ඔයාගේ මේක පොඩ්ඩක් පේන්න තියෙන්න ඕන. හරි. ඒ කියන්නේ wallpaper එක change. You have to change your wallpaper, right? And in order to show your student ID. Wallpaper එක change කරන්න student ID එක පේන විදිය. හරි. මේක snapstick ගන්න. Hi, Api, ඊළඟට කතා කරන next lesson we are going to learn about the Windows Active Directory. I think the time is not enough today, so we'll discuss it on next class. Okay, for up to now, so you have a 1 hour's time, so I'll stay another 1 hour, right? If you do it, the practical, if you do it your own desktop or laptop, I can support you if you have any issues, right? Okay, shall we wind up for today's lesson for up to now? So you better to practice it, what we have learned up to now.
Okay, sir.
Right? Okay, I can stay. So if you have any issues or anything, so you can call me or WhatsApp me.